Hi. Welcome to Best Stories channel. Lean back and enjoy the story. That's a story based on the Dracula by Bram Stoker. Chapter 1, The Arrival. Jonathan Harker arrived in Transylvania with a sense of unease. The countryside was dark and foreboding, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. But he had a job to do. He was there to meet with a wealthy nobleman named Count Dracula, who had expressed an interest in purchasing a property in England. As he journeyed deeper into the heart of the region, Jonathan began to realize that things were not what they seemed. The locals whispered dark tales of vampires and monsters that lurked in the shadows, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. When he finally arrived at the Count's castle, he was greeted by an eerie silence. There was no sign of life, and the castle seemed to be shrouded in a sense of foreboding. But he pushed aside his fears and ventured inside, determined to meet with the Count and fulfill his duty. Little did he know that he was about to embark on a journey that would change his life forever. Chapter 2, The Host. Jonathan was greeted by his host, Count Dracula, a tall, pale figure with a commanding presence. The Count welcomed him warmly and showed him around the castle, which was filled with mysterious artifacts and ancient relics. As the two men spent more time together, however, Jonathan began to suspect that there was something very wrong with the Count. His behavior was erratic and his eyes seemed to glint with an unearthly fire. Jonathan couldn't help but wonder if the rumors of vampires and monsters were true. As the days went by, Jonathan began to feel increasingly isolated and trapped in the castle. He was cut off from the outside world and had no way of communicating with anyone else. And as the Count's true intentions began to reveal themselves, Jonathan realized too late that he had walked into a trap. Chapter 3, The Night Visitor. One night, Jonathan was awakened by a strange, otherworldly visitor. It was none other than Count Dracula himself, who had come to make his intentions clear. With his dark powers and seductive charm, he began to draw Jonathan under his spell, filling his mind with dark thoughts and twisted desires. Jonathan struggled to resist the Count's influence, but he found himself drawn deeper and deeper into his web. The Count's powers were unlike anything he had ever seen before, and he began to realize that he was no match for the ancient vampire. As the days wore on, Jonathan began to fear for his life. He knew that he had to find a way to escape from the castle before it was too late. But he also knew that the Count was watching his every move, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Chapter 4, The Trap. Jonathan realized too late that he had walked into a trap. The Count had lured him to the castle with false promises and seductive lies, and now he was a prisoner, cut off from the outside world and with no hope of escape. As he struggled to find a way out, Jonathan began to unravel the true extent of the Count's powers. He was not just a vampire, but a master of dark magic, with the ability to control minds and bend reality to his will. Jonathan knew that he had to find a way to break free from the Count's influence, but it seemed impossible. He was weak and isolated, with no one to turn to for help. But he refused to give up hope, and he continued to search for a way to escape. Chapter 5, The Hunt Begins. Meanwhile, back in England, Jonathan's fiancée Mina received a cryptic letter from her beloved. She knew that something was wrong, and she set out on a desperate quest to find him. With the help of her friend Lucy and the mysterious Professor Abraham Van Helsing, Mina began to unravel the secrets of the Count's past. She discovered that he was not just a vampire, but a powerful demon that had been summoned from the depths of hell. As they prepared to embark on a dangerous journey to Transylvania, Mina and her companions knew that they were in for a fight to the death. But they were determined to save Jonathan and put an end to the Count's evil once and for all. Chapter 6, The Journey. The journey to Transylvania was long and perilous. Mina and her companions had to brave treacherous terrain and face dangerous enemies at every turn. But they pressed on, driven by their love for Jonathan and their desire to defeat the Count. As they drew closer to the castle, they could feel the Count's power growing stronger. They knew that they had to act quickly if they were to have any chance of success. Chapter 7, The Battle. When Mina and her companions arrived at the castle, they found Jonathan in a state of near madness. He had been under the Count's spell for so long that he was barely recognizable. But Mina refused to give up on him. With the help of Van Helsing and Lucy, she launched a daring attack on the Count's stronghold, determined to destroy him once and for all. The battle was fierce and brutal. The Count's minions fought back with all their might, but Mina and her companions were determined to emerge victorious. In the end, it was a close call, but they managed to defeat the Count and send him back to the hell from whence he came. Chapter 8: The Aftermath. In the aftermath of the battle, Mina and her companions were left to pick up the pieces. They had won the war, but at a terrible cost. Jonathan was scarred for life, and they had lost Lucy in the fight. But they refused to be defeated. They vowed to continue their fight against evil, no matter what the cost. And they knew that they had each other to rely on, no matter what dangers lay ahead. The end of the Count was just the beginning of their journey. Chapter 9: The Return Home. After their harrowing ordeal in Transylvania, Mina and her companions returned home to England. They were exhausted, both physically and emotionally, but they knew that their work was not yet done. Jonathan was still struggling to come to terms with the trauma he had suffered at the hands of the Count, but Mina was determined to help him heal. With the support of Van Helsing and the rest of their friends, they slowly began to rebuild their lives. But they knew that they could never let their guard down. The world was full of darkness and evil, and they were the only ones who could stand up to it. Chapter 10: A New Threat. Just when they thought they could finally breathe a sigh of relief, a new threat emerged. A group of powerful vampires had come to England, determined to wreak havoc and establish their dominance over the human race. Mina and her companions knew that they could not let this happen. They banded together once again, determined to stop the vampires before they could unleash their deadly plans. The battle was even more intense than their previous one, but they were ready for it. With their newfound strength and determination, they fought back against the vampires, driving them away from England and sending them back to the darkness from whence they came. And so, Mina and her companions continued their fight against evil, never backing down in the face of danger. They knew that their work would never be done, but they also knew that they were up to the task. They had proven themselves time and time again, and they would continue to do so, no matter what horrors awaited them in the future. Thanks for your company once more. If you are new here in the channel and liked it, please like the video and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.